Bill, what the heck is this I've been hearing about a new policy on tardiness? You haven't mentioned a word to me about it. And you know you can't announce a new policy when we haven't even discussed it. I mean, after all, those guys out there want to know what's going on.
Who is this man? The union steward is, first of all, an employee. He's expected to do the work of his regular job during working hours, except when he's engaged in authorized activities on behalf of his fellow workers. But the steward has another job also. He's chosen by the union to assist and represent his fellow employees in grievances and other dealings with management. He has a vital role to play in looking after the interests of the rank-and-file workers and acting as their spokesman. This carries a good deal of responsibility. Within the framework of the labor management agreement, the regulations, and common sense, he must see that employees get help in solving their problems, either directly from himself or together with the supervisor, where matters of personnel policy or working conditions are involved. This man is the supervisor. His responsibilities are numerous, as you well know. Among many other things, he must know the labor agreement. He must operate within its framework, maintaining efficiency and control, but always striving for fairness. Of course, the supervisor should also know a great deal about the people who work for him, their skills, interests, and attitudes, and even something of their family background. He should know them as distinct individuals, just as the steward does. Because if employees are known and respected as individuals, a foundation for sound employee management relationships has been established. Part of the job of a supervisor, such as yourself, is to learn to work with the steward in your area. To do this successfully, there are a few things you should keep in mind. For example, to ignore or look down on the steward is a good way to buy trouble. That's easy to see. But there are other ways, too.
Bill. Yeah? I've got something to tell you.
Oh, yeah? What's wrong?
Come here.
Well, what is it?
Listen, Jerry Cook is really steamed about that official reprimand you gave him. And I don't blame him. It's a raw deal. He wants me to file grievance and take it to arbitration.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold it a minute. Let's not get in a sweat over a simple reprimand. Look, I've been thinking. Next week I have to send 2 men up to the admin building on a nice soft job. And how would you and Jerry be interested in that, huh?
Yeah, that's real interesting.
I thought you'd be interested.
Yeah, I'm interested, all right, to find out what kind of guy you think I am. Look, you can keep that soft job, and you can expect that grievance appeal first thing in the morning.
In order to establish a successful working relationship with the steward, you do not need his love or his gratitude, but you must earn his respect. Here's something else to bear in mind. It never helps to lose your temper, even when the steward is out of line. Suppose you're a supervisor in this machine shop, and you notice the steward has been away from his job for some time, talking to another employee.
Hey, Ken, you've had plenty of time to think about this. Come on, how about letting me sign you up as a member?
Well, I've got nothing against the union, Dick, but at this time, I'm still not sure.
Well, Ken...
As a supervisor, you know the steward is not supposed to leave his job without permission, and he's not supposed to talk union business during working hours. But is this the way to react?
Dick, you know you're not supposed to be leaving your machine on union business during working hours. Man, I'm sick and tired of you breaking the rules.
You've got no right to yell at me in front of my men.
They're my men, too, and I'll yell all
The
I
steward
want.
was technically wrong. But has the supervisor really gained anything by losing his temper in front of the other employees? Well, as they say on TV, let's run that play again on isolated camera and see how the supervisor should react to this situation. On the isolated camera, we see the supervisor is not visibly upset.
Ken, excuse me. Dick, can I see you for a minute?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
See you in a bit.
Privately, you'll be able to tell the steward what you think of his breaking the rules. But even then, a cool manner will be more effective than hot words.
Dick.
You know, you shouldn't be interrupting anybody's work by giving them a sales pitch. Or talk about any other kind of union business either.
I'm sorry, but I've been after this guy for weeks to get him signed up, and I just got tired waiting. Hey, I'll watch it.
Okay, Dick.
Hey, incidentally, while you're here, have you seen the latest change in the regulations on hazard pay?
Here's another pointer. Don't give a flip answer or a hasty decision on a serious inquiry.
Come in, Ruth.
Mr. Harris, I'd like to ask you a favor.
What is it, Ruth?
Well, my vacation begins on the 15th, but it looks as if I'm going to need to leave early.
You know we can't make any exceptions, Ruth. Everybody in the section would be in here asking for a change in their leave schedule.
But I've never asked for anything before.
I'm sorry, Ruth. The answer has to be no.
Well, I'm going to see the shop steward then.
Very well.
You've made a quick decision without looking into the facts, and this is the result. The steward comes in to see you.
Cal, I think you've been unfair in the case of Ruth Merlone.
Unfair?
Yep.
I just told her I could make no exception. You know how people feel around here about their leave schedules.
Just tell me one thing. From the workload standpoint, could you get by without her that week?
Well, possibly, but
Then in that case, just let me tell you what it's all about. It happens that her mother was taken to the hospital yesterday.
Oh?
Ruth is an only child, and the doctor wants her to fly to Denver as soon as possible to be with her mother. It's pretty serious.
I didn't know.
You didn't give her a chance to tell you.
Now, you tell Ruth I'll okay her extended leave. And Joe, tell her I'm sorry I was abrupt with her.
I told her you'd be fair about it once you knew the facts.
Of course, every supervisor knows there are times when an employee makes a request that should be turned down. In those cases, you should again avoid a hasty answer and see if you can work with the steward in resolving the situation. For example, an employee and the steward come in to ask about overtime.
Hey, Frank, you got a minute to talk to George? Now, George asked me to talk to you about giving him more overtime. I told him that affects other people in the shop, too, but at least I'd take it up with you.
You see, my old lady...
You mean your wife?
Yeah, my old lady. I call her some other things, too. I mean, anyway, she just cracked up our car for the third time. Frankly, I need extra money, and I was wondering if you could arrange some more overtime for me.
At this point, the supervisor could say,
I suggest you buy your better half a bicycle and stop wasting my time.
but what he should do is something more like this.
Well, as your steward says, George, the question of overtime does affect the whole shop. And I'm sure he reminded you that the distribution of overtime is governed by a contract. So you see, I can't ignore that or I'd really be in trouble. Old Dick here, he'd blow the whistle on me himself.
Yeah, but I haven't had much overtime all year. I think I've had less than anyone else.
Well, what I can do is look up the records. I'll tell you this. Dick and I will look up the records, and if you've been shortchanged in any way, I'll take corrective action as overtime work comes in, okay?
Thank you.
Good. That's about the best he can do, George. And, George,
Yeah?
if I were you, I'd keep my wife away from the car.
I just bought her a month's supply of bus tokens.
Of course, working with the steward is always a two-way street. The supervisor can't make a success of it all by himself. If you happen to have a steward to deal with who is invariably calm, reasonable, and responsible, you are fortunate indeed. The fact is, stewards tend to be very human, complete with various human faults and imperfections.
Yes, Joe?
Now, look, Cal, I don't care what the regulation says. I want that time off, and if I don't get it, I'll go all the way to the top.
Look, Joe.
Now, we have some good friends in Congress, you know.
Until we renegotiate this contract, we have to work by it.
You know, you management clowns are always trying to take it out on the little guys. You're always scheming. You're always trying to pin the blame on somebody else when all the time you're the ones who are wrong.
Listen, friend, you just better learn to play ball with our union, or we'll make it mighty rough for you around here. We'll file so many grievances, it'll take you years to dig yourself out.
Now, hold on.
These are not typical attitudes, but they illustrate the kind of problem a supervisor may face from time to time. What's the answer? There's no magic solution. Tact and patience are needed sometimes, and a straightforward, businesslike approach on the part of the supervisor is bound to influence the conduct and attitude of the steward. And another thing that will help is making sure the steward is kept informed.
Dick, just had a management meeting. CEO just told us about a big workload bulge coming up next month. He's meeting over there now with the union officers to give him the word.
What's the story, Frank?
Well, next month's schedule is extra heavy because some of these workload shifts the boys back in Washington have made. I think in our section here, we're going to have to go on weekend overtime, maybe even get into a two-shift operation for a while.
Well, let's take a look at the contract and review what it says about shift changes. Exactly when is this workload supposed to hit us?
Well, as far as
The
I can
union
see,
steward is part of the picture. You can work with him if you keep him informed, if you recognize his responsibilities, and if you exercise your authority firmly but fairly. If you earn his trust and respect, you have a chance to establish a sound working relationship. Otherwise, it will be nearly impossible. Remember the supervisor who suddenly announced a new policy on tardiness? He was wrong. And the steward can't be blamed for having called him on it. For good supervisor-steward relations, here's the way that incident should have gone on instant replay. No fumbles, please.
Hi, Charlie. Yeah, sit down. I want to talk to you a minute. We got a problem.
Oh? What's it all about?
We've been showing a bad record on tardiness in this section, as you know. I'm thinking about putting out a memo saying that any tardiness over a certain number of minutes will be cause for a charge against a man's leave.
I see. Have you got the tardiness record there? And how many minutes did you have in mind?
Well, I haven't decided yet. But before I do, I want to get your ideas on the best way to handle this situation.
Very good. Very good. You can count on me anytime.
Good, Charlie.
Okay.
Dealing with your steward in this way will promote employee management cooperation where it really counts, right in your department or shop. And if you have good ears, you just might overhear a comment like this sometime when you're leaving your office.
You know, he expects a lot, but he really tries hard to be fair. Even the steward will tell you that. And he ought to know.